Welcome back, Olson's Speed Shop. This episode, we're going to talk about what to look for when buying a used car. We buy and sell used cars pretty regularly, and so over the years, I've kind of got to know what to look for right away. A lot of times, I can walk up to a car and know whether it's good or bad. Sometimes I go with my gut feeling. My wife kind of gets upset sometimes because I'll drive by, look at it, and won't even get out of the car and say, all right, it's junk, let's go. And she'll be like, you're not even going to look at it? And I said, I don't need to, let's go. But I'm going to tell you some of the things to look for if you're buying a used car. Now, there's a few different scenarios. If you're going to a dealer to buy a used car, and you're buying a newer car, 2018 or newer, you're probably not going to go wrong because it's still under warranty. What you are going to want to do is tell that dealer you want to see the Carfax. What a Carfax does is it gives you all the information that they would have on the car. Now, if the person that owned the car previously never went to the dealer for any kind of service, it's not going to show anything. All it's going to show is that the car was registered at this time and the state recognized it, and then the next year it got registered, and the next year. If you went to the dealer and did maintenance on it, but it would have to be a dealer, like a local small shop, it's not going to show up. But any kind of dealer maintenance, it will show on the Carfax. If there's ever been a wreck with the car, even a minor ding in it that they wanted to get fixed, or a big wreck that they actually went through insurance on, that will show up on a Carfax. And a lot of times it will just show the area of the car where it was damaged, and just say, it'll just show that and say there's been some work done here. It won't really tell you what's been done, but that gives you a good clue to look into that side of the car real close. Today we're going to talk about the kind of cars that we buy. Generally, most of the time we'll buy cars here when we're buying them pretty regularly. We're buying them to fix and sell, or fix and to give to someone, or to fix and to drive ourselves. Most of our cars we fixed and we drive. This is Ellie. She wants to be in the video. So, but in this episode we're going to use my son's Jeep because it's in the shop for a check engine light. Now, all you Chrysler owners out there, you should know that there isn't a Jeep or Chrysler product around that probably doesn't have a check engine light on. But registration is due. We've got to get it fixed, and it should be an easy fix. Knock on wood. But we're gonna look at this car. We're gonna act as if we're gonna buy this car, and I'll show you guys what you need to look for. If you're looking for cars that have 100,000 miles or more, maybe even like 80,000 miles or more, ones that have been used, that are a few years older, this is the video for you on what to look for. One thing you need to do before you go to look at a car is to take two things with you. And I always have a flashlight with me. Have a flashlight and grab a white paper towel, and I'll show you why. Flashlight's a must. I mean, you'll look at different things with a flashlight, and I'll show you through it. But so when you walk up to the car, you want to just take a general view of it. What you're looking for is any obvious body damage. So this, let me tell you a little bit about this Jeep. This Jeep has about 200,000 miles on it. We bought it with a bad engine, put a new engine in it, a new used engine in it, and my son's driven it. My son has since put a lift on it, put wheels and tires, and has done quite a bit of stuff to it. But the body is how we bought it. It's pretty much the same as how we bought it, other than he's waxed it. But as you go around the body, what you're looking for, look at body lines. You want body lines to match up pretty well. If you've got a huge gap here and a real tight one here, that means something's probably happened to this fender. So as you're doing an overview of it, look at the body lines of it. Another thing you want to do, if it's sunny, which is better, you kind of want to look between panels at the paint. If the paint doesn't match, so if this seems like it's a different color than the door, or the door seems to stick out as the color's a little bit off, it's probably been fixed there or damaged there. Good body shop will blend that in to where you would never notice. But there's quite a few times that they'll go with the cheaper body shops and they just paint the door and it doesn't match. You don't get that as much with clear coats, but I've still seen it. So as you're looking through, you look through there. A lot of times I prefer to buy a car with worn out tires. I know that sounds funny, but I would rather have the price lower on a car because it needs tires than to have new tires on it, unless, well, I take it back. I would rather just have a car that had worn out tires. So I could put the brand I like on, because I'm a tire snob, and two, if they're worn out, depending on how they're worn out, if they're just flat worn out, all four of them are just to the wear bars and wore out, that's a good thing. It doesn't need an alignment at that point. You know that it's wearing and the tires are wearing good on it. If you buy a car with brand new tires, I personally just plan on getting that car inspected for an alignment. I would just take it to an alignment shop, because if they put new tires on it, I'd probably just run them until they're wore out, but I don't want them to wear out prematurely. So I would take it to an alignment shop and get an alignment done. Because a lot of times they'll put new tires on to sell a car, but the front end, all the suspension shot, that's why they wore out their tires. They're cupped and what have you. But anyway, so that's another thing to look. You've done your general visual. It looks good. Look at the tires close. What you're going to want to look, and you're going to want to look all the way in. Get your flashlight out and look at the inside. Especially, this is a raised Jeep, so we got some room here. You can see all around. My wife's Acura, the fender's about here. So use your hand, feel. Be careful, because you may have steel belts showing in there, and you won't notice it unless you really look at it close. I've had tires that look just like this, perfect, brand new on the outside, and the inside's all the way to steel cord. The steel belts are showing because the alignment is so bad. But take a look at it. As you're under there, look around here. You're looking for a lot of grease buildup, any kind of rust. You can see my son put new springs and shocks on this one. But you're going to want to look even under here. You're going to want to look with your flashlight, and especially around your axles. You want to look at those boots. If those boots are ripped, they'll throw grease everywhere. And if that's ripped, you can plan on changing an axle or a CV joint. This works for front-wheel drive cars, four-wheel drive cars, two-wheel drive cars. They're not going to have that. They'll just have the spindle. But anyway, what's common on other things? The body, common on newer cars is clear coat damage. You're going to get clear coat that comes off. Right here is some clear coat off.
Up by the sunroof,
Yep.
There's some.
Sunroof. Roofs are really hard. This Jeep came from Arizona, and it's great for rust, for not having rust, but it's hard on clear coats and it's hard on interiors, the heat. So depending on where you're at, if you're in Minnesota, Michigan, some of those states, you're gonna be dealing with rust a lot. We're in Utah. We deal with rust here also. Rust gets us. Not as bad as Michigan and Minnesota and some of those areas, but we have our deal with rust. So anyway, do your quick visual look around. Make sure that everyth's good. And then let's go to the interior and I'll talk to you about what to look for. So, as you've done your general visual on the outside, you're going to want to do the general visual on the inside also. Here is where you're going to find out probably how well a car is taken care of. If the interior is absolutely trashed, they're probably not maintaining it all that great either. Now my son, he's a high school kid, but overall, don't look at these. These are the tires for a 55 Chevy I'm working on that he did for me. But you look at the seats. You want to look at how, you know, if there's any wear, that'll tell you how many miles are on it. Okay, we got some marks here. They look like they're actually from a cigarette. You want to look for areas that may indicate a smoker car. If you have a smoker car, you will smell that every hot summer day, no matter how clean it is. It'll smell, when it's hot outside, you'll get a whiff of it. I bought a Chevy truck that was smoked in. We don't smoke ourselves. We cleaned it, Febrezed it, but anytime it was a really hot summer day, you could have a hint of that smell. So you want to look for, make sure everything's there. A lot of times door panels get really hard. You can see here's a loose one. I know my son's had this off a few times, changing speakers and that, what teenagers do. You're going to want to look at the miles. Another good thing, get your flashlight out if it's dark down here. Look at the pedals. Your pedals will tell you a lot about how many miles and how the car's been used. If these are all really, now this has 200,000 miles, but the pedals are in pretty decent shape. If this thing was all wore off, if this rubber pad was actually gone, that tells you that there's, you know, it's been heavily used. So look at the pedals. That's one thing to look at. Another quick thing, when you go to drive it, let me show you. Now, like I told you, this has a check engine light on it. We know it does. When you turn it on, don't go all the way to start, but turn it all the way to on. And you're gonna look at your lights here. Let me get the right key. There we go. Okay. See that check engine light right there? You want to make sure that that lights up. That will light up every time you turn it to on. You got your battery light. You got your oil pressure light. So that's a test of your lights. Now, if you get in a car and that check engine light doesn't come on, and a lot of times they'll come on and they won't go off until you start the car. This one's not going to go off, obviously, because it's on. But start the car. Watch that oil light. Make sure it goes out. Normally that check engine light would go out. This one's been triggered. That's why it's in here. But don't buy a car that doesn't have a check engine light when you turn it to on. That means one of two things. One, they took the bulb out to sell the car. Check engine light's on. You will not pass emissions if you have emissions in your state. Or two, it burned out because it had been on for so long that it finally burned out. Now, ask me how I know. I bought a car once and I didn't check that. Started it up, and it run good. It was fine. Drove it to get the emissions done. They said, "Oh, you failed emissions." I was like, "What? What do you mean I failed emissions?" And they're like, "Oh, you got to check engine light on." I said, "There's no light." I went out and looked. It wasn't from the beginning. So this is this stuff you learn along the way. Now I was pretty livid. I was like, if that light bulb is pulled out, I'm gonna go back to that guy's house and talk to him. But in this case, it was burned out. I changed the bulb. It was an easy fix. It was actually one little wire on the alternator of all things. It had nothing to do with emissions, but there was a wire from the alternator that was broke. Fix the wire. You're lucky then. So one thing you want to do is check for that check engine light on. If that check engine light's on, there's some other issues with that car. And you will not get it registered in the state of Utah until it's fixed. And so you may end up putting more money into it just to get it going. One handy thing, they sell code readers now, little small code readers, and I gave mine to my son, otherwise I'd show you mine. They're nice to have with you. If you go to buy a car, ask them, "Do you mind if I throw this code reader in?" And you can plug it in. It just plugs into your OBD2 sensor plug right under here. And, yep, right there. And they're really easy to use, user friendly. The small, they're like 20 to 50 bucks, and might be a good investment if you're that concerned about it. You can read the codes. You could always ask to take it for a spin, and you could run to AutoZone, and they can, or any auto parts store, they can read any codes, but usually you have to have a code light on before they'll read it. So if you don't have a code light on and you got your light on here, when you turn it to on, you start it, it goes away, you're pretty good. So what else can we say? Look for any obvious water leaks. You want to look, check the windshield. A lot of times you'll find chips or cracks. And most of the time, all this stuff's just basic stuff to look for. A windshield, it's just another $200 you're gonna have to put into a car if it's cracked. So the best thing to do is to just, if you're looking for the best car that possible that you can get, is to just look through all the stuff. Now let's go under the hood and I'll show you what to look for there. So, when you're looking under the hood, you can do a few quick scans. If you open this hood, now if you go to any dealership out there, any good dealership, this will all be spotless. You're not going to have the water stains. You're not going to have, they will have this detailed to the T. And you're going to be like, wow, that's nice. That looks good. But once again, it's like tires. I'd rather have used tires than new. I would rather have this look like this than to have it all detailed out. The reason is, you know what it's like. They're not hiding anything. We put an engine in this about a year ago, and you can just see how much, just from driving it, how dirty they get, and that's just common, normal stuff. So, quickly what you want to look at, take a look at the condition of the battery. A lot of times these batteries have these date codes here. This was the battery that was actually in this Jeep when we bought it. It's been good. They didn't pull the date codes off. A lot of people don't, but some people do. If they have a date code pulled off on them, then you know how old that battery is. I'm telling you right now, batteries right now last about 5 years, and then they're done. So a lot of times, I know Costco batteries, if you look around the side, they'll have a little date on here of when they were manufactured. It'll say like 3/17, and so you know that was built March 7 in 2017. But take a quick look on that. This battery actually doesn't look that good, but it actually, I think he has been having a little issues with it. I know he charged it the other day, but batteries, another thing, it's going to run you between $100 to $200. So plan on that if you got an older battery that's going to need it. The other thing you want to do, look at your belt's condition. Use your flashlight. You can twist them, look at them. If there's any cracks in them, that's a sign that they're going to need to be replaced. This is a new belt. Here's the other thing. And these Jeeps are known for those to be hard to come off. Pull the engine where you put the engine oil in. Look at it closely. Look underneath. Look, this is where you definitely need your flashlight. Look down in there. What you're looking for is sludge, any kind of buildup. You're going to want to look for a lot of, if this is the color of light tan on it, which I'm actually surprised that this isn't, because this is known to do that. But you can see right there, there's a little bit. These Jeeps are known to get a lot of condensation. So the white tannish spots on here or down in here, that's condensation from the engine. A lot of times if you do a bunch of short drives here and there and there, and you never get it really on the freeway, you never get that engine hot enough to burn out that condensation. Something to look for. But you're definitely looking for any kind of sludge. Now you're always going to have a little bit of oil. Like I said, don't be afraid to use your fingers and look down in there. This is looking pretty good. So pull the engine oil dipstick, and this case it's marked engine oil. This one's transmission. So you're going to want to pull this dipstick out and check it. You can see it's right there. So we're within the safe zone. You're going to actually want to look at it. Now if you don't want to get it on your hands, that's where that white rag comes in, or any kind of rag. I use the white rag for transmission to look at the condition of the transmission fluid. But you're going to want to look. I've actually pulled dipsticks out that have had sludge on them. If they have sludge on the dipstick, they have sludge throughout the motor. It's not good. Sludge on a motor means that they haven't changed the oil very often. When that happens, they're more prone to spinning bearings, premature wear, lifters getting gummed up and stuck. So another thing you want to look for when you're looking at the oil, you want to make sure that there's no antifreeze in it. Now you can see on this oil, it's good looking.
Take your flashlight out.
It looks like he's changed it pretty good. So it's fairly clean. There's another thing. I would rather have 3,000 miles on an oil when I'm going to buy a car than to have the owner say, I just changed the oil. Because I'm a pessimist. I don't believe a lot of people, sadly. And so if they just change the oil, my head's like, why did they just change it? Is there antifreeze in it? Or one thing you can do is look on the windshield. If they go to Jiffy Lube, or if they go to one of these quick lube oil change places, they'll put their sticker on the windshield. Look up, check the miles. Look at the miles on the car. If they've got 10,000 miles on it and you pull out the dipstick and it looks like it has 10,000 miles on it, they haven't changed the oil. So that's something to look for. If you want longevity in a motor, I don't care what kind of motor it is, change your oil. That will make your motors last longer. Now, let's go to the transmission. Pull out your white. You can use a white piece of paper. You can have a white towel in your pocket. Pull the trans out. Now generally, you're not going to get an accurate reading unless it's a Honda. Hondas are weird. You won't get an accurate reading unless this thing is running on your oil for your transmission. The transmission, to check the oil, generally, and this is not all of them, so don't trust me on all of these. Google it. Google's your friend. But generally, to check oil on most cars, you need to have the engine running, and then you pull the dipstick out. You're going to want to pull that, and you're going to want to smell it. What you're not wanting to smell is any kind of burn smell. It smells good. Get your white towel out. See how that's nice and red? Red is good. Brown is not so good. Dark brown is bad. So you want the red, and that's why you want a white rag to look at this. So not many people change their transmission fluid, and that's fine. There's Mercedes-Benz, they are a lifetime fluid. You never change that fluid on Mercedes-Benz, at least some Mercedes-Benz. And a lot of people don't. But if you've got a nice clean one like this, we haven't done anything to this trans. We haven't changed the gasket or anything, and it's nice and red, which is good. But if you're really into cars, and this is an actual thing, people will pull them out, they'll look at the oil, and they'll actually taste it. Now what that does, if you know your flavors, you can taste antifreeze. Antifreeze has a sweet taste to it, and you can taste fuel. Another common thing in the oil is fuel. If it has an issue of starting, where it starts a lot, it's hard to start, it's dumping fuel in, that'll go to the crankcase, and you can actually taste that. So I don't recommend that, but
You can't get
do
it
what
done.
you can. I should put my glasses on. Huh? So the other thing you want to do, most cars, new cars nowadays, don't have a radiator cap. Never remove the radiator cap when the engine's hot. Even this one, the overflow bottle, don't remove that cap if the guy pulled it up and it's hot and warm. But what you can do is take your light and look at where the fluid is. So look on here, it says cold full should be at this line. Now cold full means that that's going to be about the lowest. When this is hot, it's going to go up to that line. So you're going to have to take your light, and you can see, I don't know if you can see on camera,
It's down there.
but you can see the fluid, and shake it, shake it to see if you want. And you can also, this is really cold, so you can also look down in there and see. If that's empty or super low, keep your eye out. Make sure that there's no leaks or anything happening with it. Common leaks with antifreeze is head gaskets. Bad deal. If it's a head gasket, it's a lot of money to fix. Water pumps, not so bad. Most people can do water pumps themselves, and they're not bad to do, but you're still tearing the front of the engine apart. But they'll leak right from the water pump. So ask the person when you go to buy it, is this where you normally park? Is this where you park it? And look under. If you got big old oil stains, it probably leaks oil. If you've got antifreeze will be, could be anything nowadays. Green, orange, red, blue, purple. Every car has a different color of antifreeze, but just keep your eye out for different stuff like that. So that's just some stuff to check real quick, and just do an overview of the engine like you did on the body, the interior. You're just looking for obvious signs of leakage. Now, all engines leak oil if they've got any amount of miles on them. Most of them don't leak it bad enough to get to the ground. But, I mean, you can see this. Well, this one's actually pretty good. It's mostly dusty, but you want to look down on the valve covers for any kind of oil buildup. Front of the engines. When you're underneath the car, you want to look at, you're going to want to look for any leaks there. You can see here, it looks like his front differential is leaking a little bit. Very common. I mean, with 200,000 miles, it's not bad. But look at the suspension too, real quick. You can grab a tire.
You can't see it very well.
Yeah. So, you know, if you got a car with 200,000 miles, you're going to expect to have to do a little bit of maintenance on it. If they've kept up with it, that's even better. But you just got to plan that if you take it to the alignment shop, you may have to put tie rod on it. Hopefully not a ball joint. Ball joints hold up pretty well, but occasionally you'll have to do ball joints. Or a common problem is your sway bar links. They always will waller out and wear out. They're actually pretty cheap to do yourself. 2 bolts, pop them off, pop them in, and they won't affect your alignment. So if the alignment shop says, you need to, you know, we did your alignment and we found that your sway bar links were bad, that's okay. Just tell them, go ahead and align it. I'll fix it later, and you can fix it. It does not affect your alignment. So, okay. Trying to think if I missed anything. So that's generally what I do. My biggest concerns, if I'm looking for a car for my wife, so this isn't one that I'm wanting to fix up or to have to work on a lot, I'm going to look really close for sludge. I'm going to look for any evidence that the motor's been maintained, and you'll be able to tell that. These newer cars, you could go as far as popping these open and looking at the air cleaner. Most of them just have clips, and you can pop open just like that and see the air cleaner. So, yeah. My son maintains this pretty well, and which is good. So, other than that, here's another disclaimer. No matter what, no matter how much you look at a car, until you have time to drive it for a while, I'm telling you right now, and I've told plenty of people this. I've had a lot of people ask me questions about cars or want me to look at them before they buy them. That's fine, you can do that. But remember, anytime you buy a used car, it's like rolling the dice. There's always a gamble to used cars. Sometimes you will get a lemon. You will get one, and you won't see things, you won't notice things, and they'll have issues. Anytime you buy a used car, it's always a gamble. Just remember that. You will never get a perfect one. You can go to a dealer, you can buy their warranty. I've had actually people that have had good luck with that. I've also heard nightmare stories that trans has gone out, engine's gone out, they don't cover it. So that's up to you. If I couldn't change an engine on my own, maybe I would buy the warranty, but as of now, I've never bought a warranty. Just so. So other than that, something that I look for when I just bought my wife's Acura, I'm a little weird, but I look at the car and I'm like, okay, if there's a catastrophic failure with this car, it's generally going to be engine or trans. Those are your 2 most expensive things on a car. 4-wheel drives, you got differentials, but just your common sedan, front-wheel drive, engine, trans. There's your 2 big high-dollar things. When I bought my wife's Acura, I went on our car-parts.com. I'm not affiliated with them, so, but that'll give you local wrecking yards around, and you can look up prices of engines, of trances, of fenders, of hoods. And anyway, when I bought my wife's Acura, you hope for the best, but you plan for the worst. In the back of my head, I'm like, okay, if an engine goes out, how much am I looking? And I looked, in 2012 Acura, they're dirt cheap. $400, you can get a low mile engine. Transmission, $400, you get a low mile transmission in Utah. I don't know if it's that way around everywhere. So that's a good deal for me. I told my wife, anything goes wrong, we can have it fixed for under $1,000 and it'll still be a good car. So in the back of my mind, like I said, I'm a pessimist. I'm always thinking, what's going to go wrong with it? And I usually think big. So just keep that in mind. So I hope this video helps, at least some things to look at and what to be aware of when buying a used car. Remember, it's always a gamble, but you can help that gamble by looking at a few things. If you see a lot of neglect, if you're looking for a reliable, drivable car that you don't need to do anything with, and you pull that oil cap and there's a bunch of sludge in there, run. Don't get it, because you're gonna have issues with it down the road. So use your flashlight. Just do a little bit of thing. You don't need to be a mechanic to even look at all these things, but it'll save you some heartache in the long run, and hopefully hopefully it'll be good car for a long time. And don't be afraid. There's many fish in the sea. Sometimes you get looking for a car and you get so upset because you've driven so many cars and you've looked at so many cars, and you just like, I just want to buy that one because it's there and they'll finance me. Don't do that. There are so many cars out there, and if it's not the one for you, keep looking, and you'll find a good car. So next time we're going to talk about a little Chevy project that I picked up, 55 Chevy. I would show it to you now, but it's raining and snowing outside, and I got the garage nice and heated to a good 66 degrees, and I got to look into this wiring issue to get the check engine light off it, which was probably induced by us putting the engine in. So, and it's a Chrysler. So till then, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you like what you see, and we'll talk to you later.